go ahead and get this Bucyrus City School Board of Education meeting. It's our regular meeting. Thursday, August 25th, 2011 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Stone? Here. Mr. Schiefer?
Here.
Dr. Hope?
Here.
Mr. Lipson?
Here. If you could all rise and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is in the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. Appreciate a large crowd here. I mean, it's good to see other people here, as well as people that will be watching on the internet and by access, hopefully. Our first item of business is to approve the Treasurer's Financial Report dated July 31st. No, I'm sorry. I guess our first item of business is to approve the minutes from our regular meeting July 21st, 2011, and our special meeting August 17th, 2011. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
And a second?
Support.
Any discussion on this motion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone? Yes. Mr. Schiefer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Lipson?
Yes. And the minutes have been approved. Our next item of business is to approve the Treasurer's Financial Report dated July 31st, 2011. Mrs. Jacobs.
Yes. The items of note, I think, you actually have the financial report that has the fiscal year 11 figures and revenues and expenses by source and by object. There is a federal programs update as well for all of fiscal year 11 programs. They're all coming to a close. We will actually have everything closed, we're hoping, by the end of August, and we'll have the final expenditure reports for those federal programs submitted by the end of September. Construction update. We did hear from Regency this week. We actually received the reconciliations for the past few months that we've been waiting on. So we are inching closer, but I still can't say we are done yet. So I know we've pushed past Regency's May 31st date, but I have every hope that within the next few weeks we should be much closer. There is also an Omarisa closing cash statement for the month of June. It's very promising return. We had a good claims year, and we actually participated in an ending cash balance of over $600,000. So if the claims stay where they're at, and as we move through this fiscal year, I will probably come to you and talk about some sort of premium moratorium that we'd be able to participate in with the employees of the district. So hopefully that's coming.
Excuse me. The 600,000 was for Omarisa?
No, that's our money.
Okay.
And actually, it's really interesting, but since we became self-funded, we actually have the ability to see what our premiums are doing. We actually gave this money to MedMutual every year. So that's a really interesting piece. And so now, whatever cash balance is left, we're able to make decisions about what needs to happen with our medical program. So, you know, if we see our cash balance getting low, we need to talk about what level of coverage that we have, what our premiums are doing, you know, what kind of claims we're seeing. You know, so we're actually managing that on a quarterly basis to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. So that's a really interesting piece. I mean, the only difference between the coverage we had before and what we have now, the coverage level is exactly the same. We participate in the MedMutual network, but MedMutual isn't keeping us. Very positive. The other piece of note, workers' compensation group rating program. This group rating actually goes into effect January 1st, but we have a deadline of August 31st to be able to participate in a particular plan. There was a lot of competition out there this year, and we're actually showing a savings from the other quotes of almost $2,700. The next is the fiscal year 12 budget. We've actually entered that into the state system. We're going to be watching that very closely. As you all know, the budget is a very fluid thing, and I'll give you reports as we go forward, and we'll actually see where we're at and how the expenses are turning out. The only other thing of note I wanted to let you know, I did have a conversation with Fifth Third Investments this week, talking about the opportunity of refinancing our construction bonds. Since it's debt for the district, it's almost like refinancing a house with interest rates as low as they are. We will have the ability to refinance these bonds. All things remaining equal, if we're in the same economy, when these bills are callable, or these notes are callable, we're actually going to take a look at that, and you'll have much more information that's going to come to you. Our first callable date is December 1st of 2017, so we're 5 years out right now. But I at least wanted to initiate that conversation and talk about what that might look like. Fifth Third is actually crunching some numbers of things in 2017 are exactly the way they are now. But I'm looking at the potential of saving the district over $600,000 over the life of the bond. So those were just initial calculations that I did. So hopefully. So you'll hear about that as it progresses. And I think that's all I have tonight.
Let's go ahead and entertain a motion for this first of all, and then we'll ask if anybody has any questions. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion or any questions for Mr. Jacob?
Well, as you alluded to, school finances are trying to get a moving target or a moving goal on whatever metaphor you want to use, and no more, especially this year.
Yeah.
And so I wondered, I would feel some benefit if we could have a work session just devoted to the financial status of the district sooner rather than later. Because like it or not, as we discussed, finances drives everything, and it's hard to make any decisions without having a real good handle on that, or at least knowing what the questions are. So I'd like to see us do something soon. I think October, I know we were looking at having something in October, but maybe we ought to have something in September on the finances. I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to go consult with Bill Glasgow. I think that's an important thing. And I think, again, I know the area coordinators used to do a staffing analysis, so I think that would be a good piece to have as well.
Don, I had a question when you talked about the OMRISA, and we're talking about the net cost savings and getting a moratorium and those type of things. Do we have an idea from them what our healthcare costs are going to go up to, what percentage they've increased, or
And I think it really depends on what our claim levels will be this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that drives what our increases will be. We had an extraordinary claim year, I think, this year. I think we were very fortunate that there were not a lot of claims. But I know the two prior years, our claim levels were much higher, which precipitated in the 26% increase each one of those years in our premiums. So
that's what I'm saying. Is there any way we can forecast that they may cut our premiums, or we're going to get frozen, or we're going to have to absorb the hit of the other insured?
Yeah, our increase was less than 5% this year.
Okay.
And actually, when we're talking about an increase in premium, we're almost bargaining against ourselves now. So it makes it kind of an interesting process when we determine what the increase levels will be. But I think what we'll do is we'll watch our cash balance as the year goes forward. If we feel like the cash balance is getting too high, we can actually adjust those premiums to account for that. Maybe bring that cash balance down, not have the employees pay as much for their insurance premium. So
that just seems counterintuitive given the climate right now.
It's the ability, it's the ability to have the management over that piece.
So I mean, the idea of using
And it's
it
new for us, so we're getting, you almost have to wrap your head around a completely different concept as it relates to medical insurance and the cost. So,
Dawn, what was the dollar amount increase to our district over the last 3 years with health insurance increases?
it was an increase of 1.2 million.
And there's no way we can concretely say, well, that's 600, you know, we have a credit to the general
Right,
fund or
right.
not. So I mean, that's part of the problem we're dealing with right now. And what we, you know, might have to do, our expenditures, we're trying to make decisions, we're trying to make it really frustrating to just have these numbers thrown out there and thinking that we're getting net credit. So we're really not, so it's sort of, I mean, I'm glad I don't have your job. This is very frustrating. I don't know how you can forecast anything.
Well, and that's the challenge of this position, you know, because I'm at the point right now, I can't even concretely tell you what our revenue levels will be. So how can I recommend to you what our expenses should be and what level those should be? So it's, you know, that's why I always say, you'll have more information coming. Because it changes all the time.
That crystal ball
That-
on your desk.
That would be great, yeah, that would be great.
Any other further questions for Dawn or comments on the financial report? Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Schiefer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Lipscomb?
Yes, and that is approved as well. I guess we do not have an addendum to the agenda this evening, so that can be marked off as well. Now we're to presentations to the board. First up on that, Mr. Randy Fisher, give us an update on the bell tower.
No, you're fine, you're fine. President Lipscomb, members of the board, Mr. Jacobs, Superintendent Kimmel, Robert's passing out some information with some really neat images on the front. I'm going to just give a real brief how we got to this point, kind of summary of what he's doing that, and then let Robert talk about the actual proposed new design, and then we'll answer any questions you may have. As you recall, the original idea was to replicate the old bell tower that sat at the elementary school site. We'd actually saved the terracotta pieces from that tower that was torn down. The idea was to, and we'd actually gone and had that all designed. And got a quote to build it. The problem was that those pieces of terracotta needed, virtually every one of them needed either some type of refurbishing or rebuilding or replacing. And that got to be very cost prohibitive. The cost to refurbish all that terracotta was going to cost about build the tower. So it was going to push the cost probably over $60,000 to refurbish that, to rebuild a replica of the old tower. So we just started kicking around ideas about, well, let's start from scratch and design a new tower that would be less expensive, and not using the terracotta, but still using some pieces and parts from the or at least the plaques and stuff from the abandoned and torn down elementary schools. So that's what you've got in front of you. You have a proposed, I underscore the word proposed, design for a new bell tower that doesn't use, I will say one thing before Robert, I Robert up here, but the brick would match. As you know, we got a good match on the addition at the elementary school to match the existing building. I guess you just couldn't, the program wouldn't let you pick that kind of brick. So, yeah, in an hour. So the brick would actually match, but everything else is pretty close. So with that, I'm going to let Robert talk you through this real quickly.
Well, everybody see, we've got 3 separate colored pretty pictures, so if you want to check out your neighbors, you can. The idea, like Randy said, just a quick concept with the tower was sort of the bottom part kind of would have the brick that matches. We'd have some stone trim and such. You'd be able to walk through it from Lane Street to the front door there. The brick would match the elementary building, and then from about that point up, we start pulling from the addition to the back by pulling off the columns off of the entry that's there, and the roof and the roof material on that end. So we try to pull a little bit from the old, a little bit from the new. We go to check out the plan, kind of gives you an idea about the pass-through. And the one thing I guess I'd like to point out on the plan is that on the interior portion of that, since we do have some artifacts from some of the schools that were torn down, that this would be an opportunity on that interior portion to actually maybe inset some of those artifacts within that wall, whether there's plaques or some, I think we have an owl, some other items like that. Beyond that, I mean, we just have the elevations here. As you can see, each elevation has a different name, and then we have the 4 schools that were torn down and combined into the elementary school there. What side they're on actually kind of works towards their facing where the building was. That's why Kersley's on the north, Norton's on the west, Carlisle's on the east, Kilbourne's on the south. We planned it that way. Then the final thing is a rough estimate, which you can see the bottom line there. Raw cost is probably about $35,000 plus, and then once you throw contingency and soft costs of me and plan review and all that fun stuff, you're looking at about $41,000 thereabouts. So it's less than what we had before. Some of the nice things about this is that the bell is a little more visible than the original bell tower. We do plan on actually implementing some sort of chase in one of the columns so we can actually bring this in. But that's about it right now. Randy's going to go us through and come back with the money. What do you say?
Well, with your blessing, I guess, with this, then we would go forward and try to secure funds to build this.
Randy, what type of talk is out there already about the replacement of bell tower?
I think there's a lot of interest in it. I know that our class, grade class of 75, by the way, had a reunion last year, and we donated, I think, close to $600, I think it was. I know there was.
Somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
We're big spenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should mention, Mrs. Stone was in that class as well. But there's 2 other classes that I know of that are waiting to hear about this, and they want to, so that's just without even trying. The Shuck Foundation had pledged some funds to the old project, and I cannot speak for them at this point, but I know there's interest there, let's just put it that way. So, but they're waiting to see all this information as well. So, so there is very much interest out there to see this the bell get up off the ground, build a ring.
I like it. I like it. I like the way it mixes the new with the old. I think it's very nice. Yeah, and you can see the bell.
You get that class of 75 donation up to 1,000.
Yeah, well.
Any other comments, or, I mean, I think Randy's kind of looking for us to, what?
Well, I don't want to go forward without, and then, wait a minute, that we didn't, so if you're just, and I don't think it needs an official vote on it, you tell me.
Yeah.
I just think if we get nods of the head, yeah, we like it, let's go forward, that's what we're looking for.
I agree. I like the rendering.
Yes.
It looks nice.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well then, we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Hopefully soon with some reports back about fundraising.
Now go get some money, Randy.
Yeah. Well, I've got a potential list here, and the first ones on the list are school board members and administrators.
And keep on going, Randy.
You're working off the old playlist.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
We got this door or that door?
Go on.
This is-
Oh, we got it.
Next up, we have Jake Bruner to give us an update on the football program.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep, here you go.
I need that. How's that work?
You push the button.
Awesome. Does it work from back there?
Yes.
Johnny, you were laughing at me.
Would I ever
I
do
just
that?
want to make sure. Timing, Mr. Henderson, it's going to be under 5 minutes this year.
You got it.
You can start talking. I got an important PowerPoint presentation, please. I want to thank the Board of Education and Mr. Kimball for allowing me to do my annual presentation to the board about the football program, where we're at, things we're doing. It's kind of a touch base on what's happening. Obviously, this Friday is our first varsity game. I just came from the freshman game at halftime, so I'm a little sweaty, and I apologize for I made everything a little worse. Just to update on the numbers. This year, to go over 2005, this year we have 78 players out for football 9 to 12. Our second biggest team second biggest team probably for a very long time. So we're really happy with the numbers we have. We have 32 freshmen and 22 sophomores. So a very young team, but great numbers for the area and for us. I know the board's always interested in GPA, and we're always trying to do the best we can. I've been proving that. Looking at our numbers this year, we've improved just a tad. But Donna, it's just a tad, but it's better. We're still going up.
All we can look for is improvement.
That's right. So looking at our GPA, we really have moved up barely, but or just a hair, but 3.08 cumulative GPA for our football team this year, which is we're in the 3.0 range, and we stayed there for 2 years, and we're not happy, but we want to continue to work on that. We got to get the juniors to come along with it now. So, but I think we're moving in the right direction. A couple things I want to point about scholarships. Three things I want to point out about scholarships. We had one gentleman who actually is here, doesn't even know I was going to talk about him. Shane Duffield graduated last year, won a scholarship money for going to Cincinnati from the Ohio High School Football Coaches Association for his academic and athletic achievements. Shane had 30 plus on the ACT and almost a 3.9 GPA. Competed in football, was a 3-year letterman, captain of the team last year, and of all the people in the state of Ohio, he was one of 22 selected. And all the Ohio High School players this year selected, kind of following Taylor Roll, Mr. Roll's son, who won some money many years ago. That's a pretty good honor. 22 kids out of, there's like 14,000 athletes in Ohio football. So he won some money from the Ohio High School Football Coaches Association, which is awesome. We're also going to be awarding Tom Hesse and Brandon Lust a $250 scholarship from our football scholarship fund, because those are two gentlemen that are playing football at the collegiate level still, Division III at Heidelberg. Little picture here, some guys that have played for me that were playing together, Jamie Campbell, Brandon Lust, and Kyle Dennison. They competed against each other last year. I just thought I'd show that picture. I was there because they played each other in college. It was neat to see them play each other. So anyways, those two gentlemen that I mentioned, Tom Hesse and Brandon Lust, received $250 from our scholarship fund. That's raised by our kids, our leadership committee, every year. We raise money to give to our athletes that are competing at the collegiate level in football. So big honor for them, and we're excited, to continue that. Some of the things that we continue to do, our K-3 football camp in July. We had over 150 people competing in our football camp this year. We have over 70 signed up for our cheerleading program this fall. It's going to start September 13th. And we had our 12th annual Strongman Challenge in July this year, which was, we had a big community came out and watched us, our kids perform and different things. And we just got done with our family picnic at Almar Park in August. So some of the things that we try to do to keep the family atmosphere going. New things we're doing this year, and a lot of people have been asking questions. First of all, our kids have teamed up for the backpack program. If you've heard, we're collecting canned good items. We did that at our Jamboree game. We collected canned good items you could get in for a reduced cost through Mr. Jeffrey. Our kids brought in cans as well. Their parents did to get in the game, and we're providing those cans, and they put them in a backpack that Lord Pennington and the food service has been working on. And we actually, what's great about the backpack program is, of course, that food goes back to our community. So some of the kids that need food on the weekends, been a part of that. So Lori Pennington got the football team involved, and I appreciate that. Mr. Jeffrey pulled some strings and got some reduced prices for the Jamboree football game. We had a great outing for our Huron scrimmage with Huron, obviously, and for our backcourt program, so it was a great day. Next thing we're doing for community service this year, Operation Buckeye Guard. And what that is, we are wearing a sticker on our helmet. Every football player has an American flag and a red dot sticker on our helmet. And we are honoring the 37th Brigade of Ohio soldiers in the National Guard, our football team. So 37th Brigade's ours. So we are honoring that brigade by wearing that helmet sticker and that American flag on the back of our stickers. A lot of people have been asking, why do you have those weird dot in the back of your head? Well, there's other high schools in Ohio doing the same thing. They're representing another brigade. And of course, we can write letters and send gifts to them. I sent them some highlight videos, some T-shirts to those guys, honoring their services. And at the same time, we're going to put a banner up. We have a banner up in our locker room. Mr. Jeffrey's going to put a banner up for the home game next Friday night. It's going to honor that brigade. We're like their sponsor, and they're kind of like a mutual agreement to thank them for all the work they've done. So that's our community services for this year. Other things that we continue to do, we had our 12th annual golf scramble last year. We talked about our Six Nations Leadership Committee, which is raising the funds for those scholarships. We just had our 6th annual tag day last year. We had to take a year off because of the city construction downtown, but it's back on this year. Our website's still going strong with bucyrus.com and our newsletters. One of the new things that we do, and I always want to thank the band because they run the programs for us on Friday for all the schools for Bucyrus, on Friday night football games. They allow me to put a covered insert, and charge $1 more for that program. It's about the game and who we're playing and their stats, and that dollar that we raise goes right to our scholarship program. So it gives to those, and with band said no to that, we would lose that money, we'll be able to give that money back to kids. So I appreciate all they do in helping us with that. It's been great for us. We talked about our scholarship program. One of the new things we had this year, we had 4 7-on-7 tournaments. Mr. Jeffrey was so happy that we had 4 this year. He was really excited to give me more paint. And we had Mel Kiper, if you don't know who Mel Kiper is, he's an ESPN analyst. He sponsored all of our tournaments this year because we are now teamed up with Mel Kiper. So whoever wins our tournament gets to go play at the National 7-on-7 tournament in Washington, D.C. So we're the only one in Ohio, and we're going to continue to be the only one in Ohio. So it's kind of a pretty good recognition. We ran the 3 biggest 7-on-7 tournaments in the state of Ohio in December this year. So we're pretty pumped about that. And we want to continue to grow with that. And we also did our 3 annual power meets that are going pretty good as well in the winter. So some of the things that we've done with the community. Some of the things that we talked to our team about, some of the things we wanted to tell. We're never satisfied, no matter how many games we win and all those things. One of the things that we're proud of, though, is in the last 6 years, we have had the most success in our football program since 1896. Our last 3, 4, 5, and 6 years have been the most wins ever in the program. Obviously we want more, but 41 and 19 in the last 6 years. We were looking around the county. There's only about 5 teams that have won more games in the last 6 years in the area, in the counties around us. And although we're not satisfied, a lot of things that we've done to be successful, that hangs a lot on the kids. They just work really hard and continue to do a lot of great things. So we're looking forward to a great year. I know every year somebody always asks me what the new rules are. So the last thing I want to talk about, new rules for the football this year. There are no symbols on tape or eye black. Okay, so if you put John 3:16 on here, or say something like "win," you can't have that on your any tape or symbols on your black eyeliner there. A lot of the people put black all over their face and paint it up. Can't do that anymore. Injury timeouts. From now on, if somebody gets injured, the coaches are allowed on the field to talk to their players. And I know as a coach, I never go on the field when I'm not supposed to, so we won't have that issue this year. They will allow me to go on the field when the other player is hurt and kids can talk to them. And obviously, concussions is always the hot topic this year. Not really a change from last year, but more strict with if an official sees someone who thinks it could possibly have concussion or have those symptoms, he comes to the sideline, cannot go back into the game without a certified trainer or doctor written note. So we have to do paperwork for the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So there's a lot of things that they're trying to do to make sure that kids don't go back to the game. Okay, did I make the timeline, Mr. Chairman?
No, but that's okay.
Thank you very much. And like I said, we're playing Marion Elton Friday night. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Jake.
I'll take questions if you have.
Yes.
It's over my time.
Any questions?
How was it?
It doesn't count towards your time, right? The questions.
8 minutes. I'm losing. Yeah.
Any questions?
Nice presentation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next presentation, we have Donna Stanfield with our local report card.
Each of you should have at your place a folder that says where we are going, where we are now, and how we're going to begin to address the gap. This is, we put this together, Mr. Kimmel did this afternoon, and it wasn't that he didn't think this out, because what you have in there are the newly released report cards, and those just came out yesterday, so we couldn't have done it any sooner. So you have the district report card, you have the secondary building, the elementary. Also in there, we have listed our OIP goals and the ones that we've met each year from the Ohio improvement process, and then the SMART goals that our CIP members drafted this summer during the data retreat. Following that, not only do you have their SMART goals, but their reporting forms so that you can see how both of our building administrators will be collecting that data to make sure that we continue to close this gap and improve the student achievement in our district. I know that on July 21st at our last board meeting, regular board meeting, I shared with you the accountability workbook. That is the one, that document is what determines these particular 3 report cards that you have in front of you. As I said then, we are an effective district, and so are both of our buildings. They are still effective. Well, not still, because we improved over last year. Also, both of our district and buildings met value added. And I think that that is what our goal has been, and I know that Mr. Kimmel has said this over and over again. No matter where our students are, take our students where they are and grow them a full year. That has been our goal for several years, and we have done that overall in the elementary building and the secondary building district-wide. So Bucyrus City Schools is making sure that all of our students are growing at least one academic year when they attend our schools. The next thing, if you could for a moment, if you would find the secondary tab, and then once you find that, flip back one page until you see something that says AYP Summary Report. You will notice on this page that you will see for all students economically disadvantaged, multiracial, white, and IEP students. When it is in the green, that means we have met AYP. The safe harbor designation means that not only we met AYP, but we reduced the number of students that were not proficient by 10%. So we may not have met the AYP target score, but at least fewer and fewer of our students are below proficient. The other item that we could not share with you earlier because it was just now released was the growth measure. On those areas for all students economically disadvantaged, multiracial, and white in the reading category, we again did not meet the target goal, but what the state does is they send away our scores and they recalculate and look at to make sure that our students are on the path in the next 2 years to be proficient. And they said, we're showing growth each year, so we're going to award you AYP based on the growth measure. That made a huge difference in our school, both elementary and secondary, especially our secondary. So that was very good news. Then when you see those red marks on there where our IEP students did not meet on the district report, reading and math, these scores determine our district and building school improvement status. Our district is in school improvement status of at risk. That means we have missed AYP for the first year. And we missed it with our students with disabilities, which means those are our IEP students, in reading and math, as you can see there on that page 101. In our secondary building, We are in school improvement year 2, and we are in that status. We missed meeting the target with our students with disabilities in reading. Our elementary building is in school improvement year 1. Again, we missed it because of our students with disabilities in reading and math. When you are in school improvement status, our buildings and district must create an improvement plan. We must also offer to our students, the parents of our community, public school choice of where to send their students. Where they send them, though, must be the same configuration of a school district that we have. Or we can supply or provide supplemental educational services. So we will have to create a plan. We send a letter home to all parents in the community that have students in our buildings, and that will be done. But you'll notice that I said in all 3, we missed it district-wide, secondary, and elementary with students with disabilities. And I know that Mr. Burke and I have been talking about this a great deal, and he'd like to add a little bit about the students with disabilities.
We know that this is an area that we've made some improvement in, but it's not where we want it to be yet. We had Dr. Chappell from Ashland University that came in last year and did an assessment of our program, and I know that he presented to you just recently. And some of the key areas that we pulled from that report that we're going to address in our district, co-teaching, that's getting our intervention specialists in the classroom. And that's not only with our students with disabilities, it's also our gifted services. We're going to try to do more inclusion or full inclusion with our exceptional children on both ends of the spectrum. And we're going to give time for those teachers to plan in that co-teacher. So the regular ed teacher and our intervention specialist time to plan so that our instructional time is used more effectively. We're putting in place an RTI process at the secondary and elementary. And we know that RTI is not strictly special ed and special ed identification, but what we're trying to do is identify students early in their elementary career and see if there's some interventions we can provide at an early age to maybe reduce the number of students who would ultimately qualify for an IEP or some services by meeting their needs early, kindergarten 1, 2, and hope to strengthen their skills in math and reading so they have ultimate success in grades 3, 4, 5, and then on through secondary. We've also increased the number of classes dedicated to the areas of language arts, reading, and mathematics. And these aren't just additional classes that are the same as the classes they've had, which we call the core classes, but these are authentic classes that offer authentic lessons that extend reading and math outside the typical core classroom. And that's something we're looking to do to meet the needs of our students with disabilities. And we're also, one, I think, key aspect of what we're going to do this year is we're increasing the communication between not only the administration and our teachers, but the communication between our special ed, our intervention specialist teachers and our regular ed teachers. We're going to do that through the use of calendars that will all be connected K through 12 or pre-K through 12. Also through SharePoint, a program that we have in the district. And also our new IEP Anywhere program that's going to allow our regular ed teachers access to more information on our identified students than they've ever had before. And so we think with some of those action plans and some of those steps that we're going to take this year that we're going to increase the success of our students with disabilities. Our students with disabilities in the district is 22.3%. In the elementary, 22.8% of our student population is students that are identified, and at secondary level, 21.9%. So we know that's a very large population that we need to do a better job at meeting their needs, and we really hope we can do that this year with some action steps that we have in place.
So to recap, I'm extremely pleased that not only is our district, but both of our buildings are in effective status. Secondly, that the reason that we received that effective status was because we may not have met all the indicators, state indicators, but our performance index score which determines how many students scored at a higher level than they did in the past. That's our performance index score, was why we received our designations, because more and more of our students are scoring higher. And thirdly, and I think is one of the most important one, is the value added, because we have not always had that achievement. But all of our students district-wide, both of our buildings in district, have grown a full year. I want to, before I ask you for any questions, we sort of found something very unique when Bucyrus got their report cards. If you would take your folder and open up to the district report card, and on the right-hand side, look down at the state level where it says state 2010, 2011, you can see the scores of what all students in the state did. That was a state summary, okay? You don't have to do too much there, but what's curious is turn to the secondary one, which should mirror, because the kids in the state don't change. Look at the state scores on the secondary one. And if you turn to the elementary one, look at the state scores. So Mr. Kimmel, in his eagle eye, came and said, hey, can you explain this? And I said, let me take a minute. I started pulling up report cards from across the state, district-wide buildings. Our district report card is accurate. Those are the accurate scores. However, our secondary and our elementary report card, that column there on the right under the state, cannot be, and it is not correct. So I have emailed the State Department to ask them, because I know that 100% of all the students in the state of Ohio did not pass the reading math test, nor did 100% of all the students at 4th grade pass the math test. And I also know that there had to be, and we had them here in Bucyrus, 4th grade reading and 5th grade reading says that no student in the state passed. So we know that those are errors. So hopefully they'll get back with us very quickly. And when I looked at other schools, they did not have these errors on theirs. So I attached our report cards. I've asked them for clarification. And so our district one is correct, but I don't know where the numbers, they're getting the numbers for secondary and elementary. It's not going to affect our change of our status, but it certainly would be something to check into. So these just arrived yesterday. They were just newly released. So a lot of stuff to look at and many things to be proud of. Many things for our district to be proud of. Any questions?
If I read this right, and believe me, I'm pleased you obtained the effective status, that's true. But in grades 5 through 8, it looks like we only met one indicator. Is that correct?
I am looking on.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my question is,
Yes.
what are we doing about middle school next year? Because it seems like obviously that's an area that we really need to work.
Let me share. It doesn't matter, and I don't want to use this as an excuse. We've made some staffing changes. Not to say that the staff that we had in there was not doing a good job. I want you to know that 5th grade, especially, we have worked hard every year looking at that. And so we dissected the material. At 5th grade, math becomes abstract. That's where we're finding those teachers are working hard to make sure they're mirroring everything, but many times it's going from concrete mathematics to abstract. And that also occurs later on. What you asked also, what are we doing? You heard for our, Mark was talking and I shared that we will tell at the State of Schools address about we've added additional math course at the secondary for the middle school, and 4th through 12th, the additional reading course. By implementing those additional courses, the teachers are still teaching the skills, but to reinforce them so they're across all. I think that we've already begun to see with the DRA initiated in the elementary, we're catching those interventions earlier and addressing those needs, that hopefully we will do that. Typically, DRA in many districts is only done at the elementary level. Last year we had not only for grades K through 5, we did it for 6th grade. This year we've expanded it to 7th grade to make sure that those skills are there. Talking about the students with disabilities, we have identified those students, and Mr. Henderson is making sure that he collects, and we even discussed this today, and double checking all the forms that he has. Not only will the teachers track how many students are below grade level, at or near and above, they will be tracking in reading and in math each of our target students quarterly, and that report on their reading and math scores will be given to Mr. Henderson on a quarterly basis, so we can double check those students to make sure. So we do have work to do there. Granted, we've put things in place, but we think with the additional math classes for those students and the reading with the application in both of those content areas, we're hoping to make some changes to help those scores. And we're sad, I don't know, mixed emotions, sad to have Mr. Souter leave as our math coach, but wonderful to have him as our assistant elementary principal, but also with Deb Hoover, our literacy coach. And we have focused in having them in the classroom more and more, modeling those lessons, and teachers are becoming more comfortable about having us come in and do those things, as well as Sandy Shields, who comes in there and helps with modeling the lessons. So those are a few things that we're trying.
And the only other thing I noticed is we only meet one of the science indicators, and that's at the 11th grade. And I guess if there's a grade level we want to meet it at, that would be it. We have a choice, but we don't do anything until then. Are we doing anything with science?
This year, science is, it's a difficult one. And I will say, and I don't mean to say our elementary teachers are not doing their job, and I don't want anybody to infer that, but they're truly trying to focus on reading and math. And when the day runs short and we're trying to get something, sometimes it's science and social studies that gets cut. So at 4th grade is when they first have a departmentalized. Now the 3rd grade staff this year has agreed that they're going to departmentalize in somewhat. So they will be, many of the teachers are teaching their own reading and math, but then they switch for science and social studies, so that would help. So helping us begin to get foundational skills in science, and we're looking at that. Also this year is science adoption, so this is the year that we will look at our science curriculum and see if there's instructional material that needs to be purchased. This is their first year that they will be having brand new, the revised standards to implement. Our district this year in all subjects, reading, math, science, and social studies, will be implementing the revised standards. So that's going to be a challenge. We've just got to make sure that science is addressed, not just at a science class, but in reading. So when we're teaching literature, and we have purchased many, many of the new materials in social studies, our last reading adoption, every one of those stories were either science connected or social studies connected. So we're trying to make sure that when we purchase reading materials that it's cross-curricular for either science and social studies, to build that in and not just teach it in isolation.
Thank
you. Any others?
Donna, when I'm looking at like the 7th grade reading, I know you're really targeting reading in 4th and 5th grade and saying that's the year you need to stimulate reading because they're going to take off from there. The reading's going to be, you know, important for learning science, all the other type of things there too. And I think, I can't recall, it doesn't give their 2009 results, but I think there's a step up. Those numbers appear to be better. But I noticed like in 7th grade, they tend to fall off a little bit. Is there an explanation for that? Or is it just a class variation, or can you explain or address that number?
And you're looking at
7th grade performance in reading, math, both in the 60% versus everything else is the 70s, and I just don't know, is that any parents see? Is it, it's not reflective, and I'm not saying it's reflective on our 7th grade staff, but there's a, you know.
Okay, and when I'm looking at that, and we see that the scores go down, we're also looking at different groups of students coming in there. So you may have one group of students that typically have been a little bit lower all along. And what I can provide for you is we are tracking our students by cohorts. So if I wanted to see your how well the students are doing, and that's what our OIP goals are, I would want to track this group of students as a 3rd grader. What did those students do as a 4th grader? Then it's a 5th grader. Now, you asked about it, you know, why are they going down? It may be that right in there we developed it, or we adopted a new reading series and things like that. So there's a lot of factors in there, but I like to look at it by cohorts and be happy to provide that.
Well, as I understand it, we're meeting AYP, so each class, that tells me from last year our scores are getting better, correct? And so I'm just looking there, and I don't know if it's just it just sort of sticks out to that 7th grade number is what it is, and it's not a reflection on our 7th grade teaching team, but I didn't, you know, I just seemed to stick out there.
7th grade has been a challenge, and 5th grade has been a challenge, especially in the math, when they start changing their concepts. So, yeah, I won't disagree. It's a challenge.
Any further questions for Donna or comments?
I do have a comment. Thank you for this. This is nice. Have it all put together.
Yeah.
We'll refer back to this throughout the years, so
I don't know how many we'll find it again.
You put that tag on it, you like when you don't take it out of your purse when you buy one near the store, it buzzes you when you go out, you have to put a buzzer on it.
Probably. Thank you.
Okay. If not, then we will go on to the next part of our meeting, which is why everyone is here, finally. Commendations. Superintendent Kimmel.
I apologize, this is an unusually long beginning of our meeting. I know most of you have to get home and get rested for school tomorrow, so but we have a lot of important information to deliver tonight, so I do apologize for the delay. Mrs. Pranger, if we could come up and do the elementary students first. We have 3 different groups tonight. The reason we're here to accommodate these and recognize these students is their artwork was recognized and chosen to be hung in the hallway that leads down the board office hallway here. So if you had an opportunity, if you didn't have an opportunity to come down here to check out the fine artwork of our students in the district, please do so on the way out. So we'll call these individuals. We'll back up here a little bit, come call them up here and recognize them for their good work.
Okay, the first one is Katrina Haycock. Okay, the second one is Mackenzie Powers. Rain Wilson.
Over here.
Riley Moody.
Okay, these are our students representing our elementary staff or elementary students, and we're going to ask them to go around and you can shake the board members' hands over here behind you and congratulate them. So we'll start over here.
Excellent. All right, good job. Okay.
And we just have 2 other groups we'd like to recognize, and we can turn everybody loose that was here for the accommodation to go home and get some sleep. So at this time, Mr. Bauer in the middle school art department.
I have a few students who couldn't be here tonight. Ainsley Bruns, Brianna Fry, Gabby Siebert, Jasmine Sweeney, and then I have one who is here, Sydney Stevens.
Okay, Mr. Cullen in the high school art department.
Thanks everybody for coming out, all the parents and community members. And as Mr. Kimball said, that wasn't unusually long beginning. We usually get in and get out for that. I appreciate your patience on. And I just was sitting back there watching too. I didn't have anything to do with all this one.
Little does everybody know, we have this is a small portion of our meeting yet to go. So
Yeah.
you're free to go after this.
I have 3 of my 4 students here tonight. I'd like to have them come up. Haley Van Voorhees. Hannah Dawson. And Ronnie Agler. And I had one other student, Seth Evans, who was unable to make it today. Thank you. And in just a moment, students that received accommodations tonight, out in the lobby there at the front before you race off, we would like to get a picture of those students real quick. It'll just take like 1 minute and it's on your way out anyway. Thanks.
Thank you for coming this evening. I'm sorry.
I'll go all the way around.
Normally we don't have no, normally we don't have 3 reports in front of the accommodations, but we have to follow that order on there, so.
I'll shave it when Mark gets a haircut. That's our deal. It'll be nice in the wintertime. I had it all summer, you know.
It'll be gone soon though. The same day that goes, this goes.
Thanks, man.
It'll be going at the same time. I can get rid of this.
Bye, Mr. Bird.
Okay, now to our committee reports. Mrs. Stone, legislative report.
I have no report. I believe they're probably still on vacationing
Okay.
in Columbus.
I just say that Martha's Vineyard, but they're
Yeah,
vacationing
they're
someplace.
vacationing.
Okay. Athletics, Dr. Johnson.
Well, I'm sure everyone except varsity football's had a game or a match or something in by now, and
Volleyball
have that.
starts Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Football Friday. There's been some junior high football games. Tennis has a few matches underneath their belt, and cross country's had the early bird, or is that this?
Upper Sandusky. Upper Sandusky. And then Rock this weekend.
So it's getting into full swing. So it's like, I don't know.
Just really, I just want to thank the board for making a personal donation like we've done for the last 4 years. It was the 4th annual Elks Youth Golf Invitational where they sponsored, and the board sponsored a hole, and I want to thank the board members and Ms. Jacobs and also Mr. Kelly for the donations, and it was a nice time. Very nice presentation tonight by Coach Bruder, so looking forward to the fall sports season.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Schieffer or Dr. Johnson? Mrs. Stone, Pioneer.
Pioneer will not be starting this year until after Labor Day because of the building project. They want to get as much done as they possibly can. I think they're probably working a couple shifts over there to get it going, but it's looking good. It's looking good. So I really don't have much of a report of it since they haven't started yet.
When will they finish then?
It's sometime in 2012.
I mean, the school year. I mean, do they?
Oh, the school year. I thought you meant the building.
That's what I thought you meant.
Okay.
It's amazing to me.
It's not the
So
first time
were you
everybody
talking
keeps
about what I
communicating
thought?
well today.
Yeah,
The school year.
I'm not sure what the end of school
I mean,
is.
I mean, since they're starting after Labor Day, how does that affect graduation?
You know, I
Still
thought-
like the answer sometime in 2012.
Oh, yeah, 2012.
It's right both ways.
That's right.
Boy, she's baked tonight.
You know, they were actually in session, I believe, 7 days after our seniors were last year.
Because they had all those snow
They all
makeup days.
days. You know, the problem becomes is you can't finalize class rank until all the Pioneer grades are entered. And by that time, our guidance department had their 10 days after pretty much used up in the summer. So it was a real challenge, and I think they'll face the same thing this year because we graduate so early. And Pioneer will be going, I believe, through the first week in June.
Just after, technically after graduation. I mean,
It will be after graduation. Now, they work with us very well and finishing up there. Our seniors, our juniors continue to go there even after we graduate, but the seniors will be able to get back here and graduate on time.
Okay. Any further questions for Mrs. Stone at all? Okay, student achievement, Dr. Johnson.
Well, I think we pretty much discussed that at great length. I just want to congratulate all the teachers, all the staff, classified, certified, and our administrative team for helping move our district from continuous improvement to an effective status. That's really a big deal. And the fact that we met AYP is a very, very good indication of our progress. There's obviously still some work we need to do, but that's always the case. So again, my congratulations to all the staff in helping us move up a notch.
I appreciate. I mean, and I didn't mention this before during Mrs. Stanfield's thing, but I appreciate at least all the administration, everybody that works hard and making the analysis of what's going on with everything here. I know it seems like a lot of numbers and everything else like that, but it gives you a clear direction on where you need to go. And I know in talking with other teachers in other districts around the region that doesn't happen all the time, and some of them are just grasping at straws, trying to find that one that's going to make the one to get the scores to come up. So at least I'm very proud that we have a staff that's really working hard and trying to get things going based on the data that's out there, because I think the data tells a story. So I appreciate that. Any other further questions for Dr. Johnson? And Dr. Hope, wellness.
Yeah, well, I have nothing to report from our committees other than the fact that I'm glad to be back. It's been 8 long weeks and all is well, and back to work. I thank you all for your prayers and concerns. So,
Good.
thank you.
We're glad to have you back.
You look well.
Yes, you do.
That's why I'm on the committee.
It's not the well, but it's not the getting better committee, it's the wellness committee. So, okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Hope at all about him getting better? Or well?
I met AYP.
Okay, but well, then there you go. That's important.
Well, we're glad you're back.
Yes.
Thanks.
Superintendent's report.
Happy to report that we're all back in school, and the start of school year went very smoothly thanks to the great administrative staff that we have sitting at the table here and the great teaching staff that we have. And I'd like to thank Dr. Johnson for his inspiring opening day speech. I think the tone was set about how much it matters that we put the kids first, and that relationship is ultimately critical. And I've kind of coined 3 characteristics that I think have hopefully built up the STARS climate, and that's the traits of listen, respect, and trust. And I think if you can approach students, other staff members, and community members, and those three characteristics, every situation's handled, I think that you'll be further ahead. So we can talk all we want about test scores and AYP and growth, but if you don't build those relationships up, none of that matters. So just want to thank everybody for the good start of the school year.
If I can just mention real quick, I want to thank Mr. Kimmel because he did an excellent job in setting a very positive, caring tone for the school year. I got lots of feedback from staff that said that was just one of the best opening days that we've had. So my congratulations to you on that. I'm still not sure what Burke was doing, but that's
No one ever does.
I can tell you too that I started getting phone calls and I thought, oh my goodness, what did Mr. Kimball do? You know, I started getting phone calls and they were all positive phone calls, very, very positive phone calls. And
well,
so,
we had not
you.
we had not planned together, but I thought both of our messages were in line. Yeah. So
I appreciate it.
So
I echo the same thing. I heard a lot of comments from staff that it was one of the best openings that they've had. So,
and it's been it was a very challenging year. Most of the people sitting here and Rob are either doing additional duties or different roles, that put that on top of the switch from this whole ESA system to power teacher, power school. It's been nerve-wracking. You know, I've tried to keep Mr. Henderson from jumping off the building at the secondary level. He told me not allowed to go on the second floor. He'd stay on the first floor for the first month of school. So apologize to the teachers that are on the second floor. You'd never see Mr. Henderson. And but in all seriousness, we have a very caring staff, from teachers to custodians to secretaries to administration to aides to food service. Every adult in that building is very caring. It's giving them the tools necessary to handle kids in a respectful way. Thank you. That's my report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we have opportunity to address the board. I know that we have one person that would like to address the board so far. So, Mr. Green, you have the floor.
Once again, sorry. Trying to make a joke right now. It's been a very long day. On July 17th of this year, my son was involved in an altercation with a child on the school property. My son and this other student are on the football team. On that morning, it was a 7-on-7 tournament. Going into what happened, my son told me that this child was shoving him while he was stretching out prior to 7-on-7. My son told him to stop. This hitting and shoving kept happening. My son told him to stop. This child came closer and says, "What are you going to do about it?" My son struck this child. Mr. Bruner and I had a conversation that morning after the 7-on-7 that he would have to contact Mr. Jeffrey on what happened. After that, Mr. Jeffrey questioned my son and the other child who was involved and other children who had seen this. In my opinion, upon Mr. Jeffrey's reflection of what happened that morning, he gave my son a 1-game suspension from football. One, I don't feel is right for what happened, and I will say why. Well, no. 2, Mr. Jeffrey informed me that smacking and hitting someone is not as severe as what my son did. This is out of our current current student agenda with rules and everything else. page 24 under assault or fighting. Here is fighting. A student shall not engage in any fight or other act of violence or force that causes harm or threatens to cause harm to another person. Fighting includes engaging in anything physical. An example: pushing, shoving, slapping, kicking. This is from here. Verbal abuse or provocative actions to provoke, anger, or stir up any conduct toward another person that could lead to harm to another person or anyone else around. I asked Ms. Jeffrey if the other child had received these same punishments. He was unable to tell me what he received, but said, I handled it with a punishment. And let me see, Mr. Jeffrey also told me that he handles all problems on a case-by-case situation, yet tells me he needs to be fair and equal with everything he hands down. I was informed that the child who struck my child first received a half-game suspension and community service. I spoke with President Lipscomb previously on this. I hope that all the board members have been up to date with this. I followed chain of command. I went through the AD, I went through the principal, because at the time we had changed everything. So the only person who I had was the principal, and then straight to a super. That's why I'm here now. I'm frustrated that for our children who are hit, shoved, slapped, kicked, or even verbally commented on, are not able to defend themselves. My daughter last year was told by a girl that this girl will kill her family, her mom, dad. My daughter, unfortunately, was wrong with what she did. She struck the child one time. My daughter was suspended for 3 days. This girl got nothing. I don't like that. I'm asking for the board to wonder why my child was provoked but has a worse punishment than the other child who started the situation. I asked for fair and equal punishment for both boys because, as our own board policy states, everything that happened that day is on page 24 of what was sent home, and it's been in the past 2 years agenda policy. I even asked, let's see, Mr. Kimmel, Mr. Henderson, Mr. Jeffrey, if Cody could serve 10 times the amount of a football game of community service for what he did. I was denied on every single level. Yet this other child can have that, what this child has told my son. What I've been told. But the child told my son that he got nothing, which, if that's true, that even angers me even more. To finish up, I'm asking the board to be equal and fair and rethinking and overviewing the actual punishment handed down to my son. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I know that I received comments from asking about reports on this incident as well, from Mr. Henderson, from Mr. Jeffrey as well, and you know, after reviewing them, they told me the situation for going with everything as well too, and I have to support the administrators on this personally. because of just the way that the thing came down as far as that came, and the report that I was given on that, and how they came up with their decisions. We appreciate you coming here and telling us.
But Tony,
so.
and board members, but you, as a parent, you're not being fair either. Did this child receive equal punishment to my child?
Okay. And I will leave that to our administrators to determine on there, Mr. Green. That's why they're here. That's why we pay them to do that as well. That's my opinion as a board member. I mean, I don't know if any other board members would like to comment on that. But the administrators came down, followed a set of guidelines that we have set for them, and went through those guidelines to determine the correct punishment for what was going on.
If I took it to an area where I'm looking at my own child or those circumstances, I have no control of the peripheral things. I have control of my child, and my concern is you need to own your circumstances. If you get another child and our code of conduct says this is the punishment you should receive, I would believe that that's what we need to do. And I mean, I'm just saying, just purely that you can't worry about the hearsay, the circumstances, and all those things. So but I'm just saying,
he was provoked first.
But Brian, I understand that.
And your own policy states, if you're provoked, it is a fight.
I understand that. But my whole point of our code of conduct, and I think it's a problem with the nation in general, is it takes a bigger man to walk away from a fight than get into a fight. If you get into a fight and you do this and you violate the code of conduct, you need to suffer the consequences for that. And globally, that's what our policy is, and I stand by our administrative staff also. So that's just my opinion. I don't want to get into the point of finger pointing and say someone else should have, could have, would have, and those kind of things, because that's where anarchy steps in. So we need to be a little more controlled and understand, if I do it, I have to own it.
The school board is allowing bullying, plain and simple. If you walk away from that situation, that's what it is.
I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your opinion. I don't share. I mean, we've shared a lot of opinions together, and we've disagreed on some as well. I disagree with you as well.
And it's fair.
So
I mean, and I'm fine with that, but I don't agree with a child who hit my child first, provoked a situation, and I proved it in the agenda, and my child gets a worse punishment than the other child who hit my child first. That's my problem.
Okay. I appreciate that. The reports that I've received from the administrators that do work for us have explained their reasoning for what's on there as well too, which is according to board policy. Okay, and that's, I mean, I know that we disagree on this, and that's fine. You know, and there'll be times when we're not going to agree together, Brian, quite honestly. And there are times that my wife and I don't agree, which happens quite a bit. So, but you know, I do appreciate. I'm going to make this board and this board available for people to come in and say, hey, there's, you know, they think that things are incorrect, and we get the information that is available to us to try to do that and to make those things. Okay.
As a parent of my 3 children who are still in school, I will say right now, if my child is assaulted first, they have a right to defend themselves.
And we will take appropriate action when that does happen for everyone that's involved, and I'm sure the administration. And that needs to be the final word on that. Quite honestly, I appreciate you coming, Mr. Reed. Appreciate your opinion. I know it's not the opinion that we both share, but I do support our administrators and people for what has been transpired from that. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board this evening? Okay, if not, then we will go into the personnel certified staff.
President Lisco, members of the board, has recommended the Board of Education A, approval on the limited supplemental contract as per approved supplemental salary schedule to the following personnel for the 2011-2012 school year for extracurricular activities pending completion of all state and board requirements to Kevin Boggs, assistant track coach; Jacob Bruner, assistant athletic manager, middle school; Jacob Bruner, assistant middle school track; Michael Cohen, assistant middle school track; Felicia Irvin, faculty manager; Kevin Foreman, after school credit recovery monitor; Rebecca Godfrey, grade level chair, intervention specialist; Nathan Hill, teacher leader specials; Matthew McKeever, faculty manager. Richard Rawson, faculty manager. Katie Resch, assistant track coach. Katie Resch, faculty manager. Katie Ruffing, faculty manager. Keith Sager, faculty manager. Scott Tinmeyer, teacher leader, grade 4. Item B, approve the substitute teacher list from Mid-Ohio Education Service Center as per Exhibit A.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel certified staff items A and B?
So moved.
Support. And you have support there. Any comments on the personnel certified staff?
If you could just kind of explain the faculty manager. I mean,
Sure.
it looks like we're hiring everybody and their brother, and I think.
And probably to be a little bit clearer going forward, we ought to have that because it's paid on a timesheet basis. Some of those folks that are approved tonight may only work one event the whole entire year. Anybody who said that they would be willing to help out are board approved, and then they're put on an as needed basis. And Mr. Jeffrey has a budget that he has to stay within, and so I appreciate that question because I think going forward we ought to put that on there that it is no supplemental contract that's associated to each of those individuals. It's on a timesheet basis, on an as needed basis, and it's within Mr. Jeffrey's budget to not exceed X amount of dollars.
And I'm assuming that these are like when there's multiple things going on at the school and he can't cover them all.
Correct. You know, maybe a Saturday, let's say cross-country, Elks Invitation out at the fairgrounds, home volleyball match, junior high football game going on. He can't be in 3 places at the same time, so we do hire on an hourly basis people that are in charge of overseeing the activities, the safety, and the running of those programs.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Schieffer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Lipscomb?
Yes, and that is approved. Superintendent Kimmel, the personnel classified staff, please.
President Lipscomb, members of the board, it is recommended that the Board of Education A employ the following personnel on a substitute basis as per approved salary schedule for the 2011-2012 school year, pending completion of all state and board requirements, including a favorable background check to Victoria Maxwell and Carolyn Rebond. B, approve a one-year limited supplemental contract as per approved supplemental salary schedule to the following personnel for the 2011-2012 school year for extracurricular activities pending completion of all state and board requirements, including a favorable background check to Michael Dean, home instruction tutor, Joe Klingenberger, assistant varsity track coach, Babette Rittenauer, assistant middle school track coach, Carl Rittenauer, head girls and boys track coach, Ken Tamiko, assistant middle school girls basketball coach, Kayla Tubbs, assistant middle school volleyball coach. Item C, approve a one-year voluntary contract for the 2011-2012 school year pending completion of all state and board requirements, including a favorable background check to Brian Reeves, volunteer assistant football coach, Brock England, volunteer assistant football coach, Josh Kine, volunteer assistant football coach, Dennis Lieberger, volunteer assistant girls basketball coach.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel classified staff items A through C?
So moved.
Do I have a support? Okay. Any discussion or questions on any of those items? Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Schieffer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Lipscomb?
Yes, and those items are approved. Superintendent Kimmel, the business items, please.
President Lipscomb, members of the board, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve item A, approve the personnel changes to the Mid-Ohio Education Service Center contracts as per Exhibit B. Beth Constantine, Family and School Support Coordinator, 8 hours per day, 5 days per week, effective August 22nd, 2011. Linda Hess, Educational Aide, Dibbles, 7 hours per day, 5 days per week, effective August 23rd, 2011. Marie Stuckman, Family Intervention Specialist, 8 hours per day, 5 days per week, effective August 23rd, 2011. John Supon, Educational Aide, In-School Discipline, 7.5 hours per day, 5 days per week, effective August 22nd, 2011. Item B, enter into a contract with Crawford County General Health District for the 2011-2012 school year at a cost of $35,910 and the amendment for kindergarten screening services for an additional cost of $567 per Exhibit C.
Do we have a motion to approve business items A and B?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion on those items? Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Schieffer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Lipson?
Yes. And those two items are approved. Now we're time for our discussions. The first one is the weight room coordinator trainer proposal that was Exhibit D in our packets. Let's discuss.
I don't know, maybe if we could give Mr. Jeffrey the floor.
Yeah,
at least,
that's fine.
Mr. Jeffrey, would you like to fill the group in on how this discussion item came forward?
This discussion item has been, I guess, one of those other hot topics when we started the athletic strategic plan that some of you have been involved in. And it's been, in particular, I would say with the community members. They feel that the safety of our kids in the weight room, having some professional trainer, licensed trainer is the route to go. We did look into flex fitness. I'm not asking the board by any means, and I stated that in that paragraph. I know that that dollar amount is, we need to watch every penny we're spending. I understand that. I called Dawn briefly after our last strategic plan meeting because some of the topics were to maybe meet again as a group to come up with some grants that maybe we can apply for, or maybe even either offset that cost and or maybe completely pay for that cost. But right now, what they proposed is in front of you what Flex Fitness has proposed to us, which is a group in the community that has one of our graduates as a trainer that works out there. Also, he's part of he's actually, Bryce Ballman's actually on there signing that proposal. And some of the issues in my proposal are some of the things that constantly come up as far as issues that I heard why they feel some of the safety reasons. So I think when you're talking about, when I talked to Dawn about this, when you're talking about wellness and things of that nature, our students, if we hear this into wellness, I think there's got to be some grants out there. Now, since I've talked to Dawn, I haven't had a chance to really even dive into this with the start of school and transportation and everything getting off the ground, but I fully plan to get this committee back together. I know Dr. Johnson was part of the initial meeting. Robin Hildebrand, a community member, was in there. Fudge Harvest, who's a coaching and community member, was in that also. Jake Berner was in the initial meeting, and Mr. Schieffer and Mr. Kimmel offered to be on that as part when they had a strategic plan, but they had conflict with the meeting when we talked about this.
A little bit more background, as Mr. Jeffrey said. There's been some ongoing issues with the supervision of our weight room. Whether the folks that are overseeing that safety-wise are protecting and having educating the kids on the appropriate lift techniques. There is some liability concerns there. The lack of consistency, maybe what's important to the football coaches overseeing the weight room may not necessarily be in line with what the basketball coach wants to see, or what the track coach wants to see, or what the baseball coach wants to see. When you have coaches that are covering the weight room, whether it's in reality or perceived, they're going to look out for the sport that they're in charge of. And so if you have somebody who's not associated to a certain sport that's overseen and is trained and educated in safety issues of the proper lifts and the proper programming to address all of our athletic needs, I think you have a little bit more of a consistent program. When we were also looking at expanding our weightlifting class that is currently during the school day, a kid can take Health 3 for phys ed credit. We wanted to offer students an opportunity to do weightlifting as an accredited course before school or after school. in a credit flex type of opportunity. Well, we still need somebody to oversee that. When Mr. Hoker was still on staff, he was going to teach that what's called zero period. It would start at 7 o'clock in the morning, go until 7:50 in the morning. Kids could come in and get their weightlifting done in the morning. It would be sufficient for what they were doing for their sport, but then they'd also be able to get credit for it. Well, Mr. Hoker left, we absorbed that position, did not replace Mr. Hoker's position, but we had nobody else that had any time in their schedule to be able to teach that weightlifting class. So then we started thinking outside the box, and what are some, with the availability of credit flex now, really students can pick up that credit through a partnership with a local fitness club such as Flex. So there was several things that were going on at the same time. We were talking about in the athletic strategic plan how we needed to address the safety and consistency of the weight room. We were losing a teacher who was certified to teach phys ed. We did replace the position. So we thought, well, with the savings with that position that we have absorbed, maybe there's a possibility that we could spend some of that money instead of hiring a new teacher to funnel towards the paying for this contract. A little bit of history here, we used to have a paid weight room coordinator, but it was paid out of the Carol White grant. It was never paid for out of our general fund monies. So what I've encouraged Mr. Jeffrey to do is to look at some funding mechanisms outside of the general fund to potentially still head down this road. And I like the concept of the bringing somebody in who is trained to the proper lifts and the safety and the liability, but try to do it with a way of tapping some funds outside of the school district.
I would say that's the only way we can do it. To be honest, I don't, the shape we're in, I don't think we have that luxury to be able to do it otherwise.
And I've already asked Dawn to start looking at things if she gets notices of any grant writing opportunities. Now, I'm not an expert in writing a grant, and I don't think there's too many people that are. There's specialized people that do that. I know there's been a time where we've been burnt by grant writing folks, but I think that through Dawn's connections, I think if she has a history with somebody who understands grant writing, that would only get paid if we get awarded a grant, I think that we need to not only look at that for any type of phys ed or weightlifting, but anything. We've talked about Heath Sagers wanting to continue to expand his pre-engineering programs. He's teaching now at the 7th grade and 8th grade level for us, and he's interested in doing some projects. But I tell you what, anytime you talk about STEM or engineering, you talk a lot of money. We talk about modular units and things like that. So what I really hope that we can do is look at both STEM grants and any community connections to health and wellness grants that are out there.
Am I correct that whoever we hired to do the weight room before with the Carol White grant was not certified?
No, he was not. That was Coach Bell there.
Okay.
Coach Bell. And I'll say good things about that. When it was run in a coordinated manner, we did go to a coordinated program, which works for us, but as Mr. Kimmel said, you're still getting into, well, now we're putting on the coaches, and things are being done in a more, they're done at a different pace. They're done at, they're supposed to follow a bigger, faster, stronger program, and to have somebody, some coaches go in there at 5 o'clock after their practice. That's one thing that we're kind of addressing with this committee too. We're going to have a time frame. I think that's one thing that's definitely going to come out. They're going to have a time frame where they're in there somewhere between 3 and 5:30 for that half hour of in-season lifting. That way we can assure that if and when hopefully we get a grant committee or a coordinator, that we can assure that that coordinator is in there at that time. Because I think that's some of the issues, and we have done some professional development with our coaches. I can't say all of our coaches went through all the professional development, because some coaches work during the day, so it's hard for them to get there. So some are more educated than others, and like Mr. Kimmel said, when you're dealing with things like that, you're dealing with kids' safety in the weight room and so forth, and you're just getting a different I guess, a different perspective and different levels of what the training's going on. What I was hearing a lot of is there wasn't enough, what Gil said, training as far as teaching of the athletes of how to do the proper techniques, and also from a standpoint of, even if they were doing the right lifts, pushing them along too fast, where they were going up in weight on too aggressively, I guess. I don't think it's on anybody's, I don't think it's any coach's goal to say, I want somebody to go so fast that they may possibly get injured or whatever. I think it's just, hey, we're trying to push them to be the best person they can be, and I think that some perspectives from the community's perspective is they're pushing them along too fast, therefore they're susceptible them to injuries and so forth. And that's a concern from my desk, and obviously I know it would be a concern from your desk too, liability and so forth. So I think things, like I said, I think things went well when we did have a weight coordinator, and went much more smooth because there was that one point person or two people. It was actually Coach Bruner who was an assistant, and Coach Keller was the head, and it went much more smoothly. When we lost that, we lost some of the cohesiveness and consistency in the program.
I like the idea. I like the idea of having someone certified, someone that's training that type of thing too. I'm still in favor of. I know there might not be anybody within the district that's currently teaching to be able to offer something like this. Maybe not on that grand of a scale, but something like that to where they can do that. I can also know that there are plenty of people in the district that are athletic, and some that teach in the district they're athletic. That it wouldn't take that long for them to get the certification, you know, if they wanted to take the required courses, and to be able to still have that connection of an educator or someone that's in the classroom and on the weight room too, to help the students. But you know, I also know that sometimes that's not always feasible in our thing. But just in proposal, I mean, first of all, we still don't have the money to pay for it. So I mean, that's number one. And then once we cross that bridge, we can do that. But you know.
I think it's a great idea. I personally would like to take the word weight room coordinator out of there and put it a wellness coordinator, because just besides the weights, you know, people get damaged because they all go in there and do anaerobic lifts and trying to work on that. Your wellness, you have to do exercise, you have to do other things and incorporate that all into a general physical fitness type of program. So I think, you know, I would just say it's a wellness program. Your training takes place. Somebody has to be aware of your nutrition and all the other things that go with that. And that's great, and that's what President Obama wants, and his wife's trying to go, and if we have a wellness program, it could click right in there. The problem is the money part. And so what we have to do is come up with a way, if we use wellness in your grant writing instead of weightlifting, I think it goes a lot further for you, so that would be certainly the way to attack it. So, I mean, I'm in favor of the idea, but again, if we have general fund issues that we just don't have right now, we can allocate it. So.
And that's why I said, you know, when I saw the document, I said, you know, I just didn't think there was a way that we could get done general fund way.
I would like to commend the group that worked on this, because they did take a look at what the needs of the student athletes were and came up with a program that they felt fit those needs. And then they looked at the finance of it. And I think that's a reasonable approach. Too often, we kind of let the finance part constrain the big idea. I realize the fiscal constraints we have, and I realize this proposal goes beyond just having a weight room coordinator position. But having said that, I would still strongly advocate for some kind of a supplemental for a weight room coordinator. I realize it can't be all of this, but you know, I think this is kind of a victim of poor timing, given the state of the economy and so forth. But when you look at the long list of supplemental contracts that we have in this district, and each of them are there for a reason, I get that. Boy, this one, just considering the liability involved, I think at some point it needs to be on that list of supplemental contracts, at least to provide a foundation for a program, even though we can't do all this. I just think a weight room coordinator ought to be on that supplemental contract list at some point. And I'm not here bargaining for the association. I'm here speaking on behalf of kids. I think it would be good to have a coordinator.
Well, this is an area, I think that goes right into physical therapy, who we do have a contract with, and it is with Tim, who understands all that kind of stuff too, and I think he should be part of this equation also, because if you're talking a great, cohesive, everybody working in the same team type of thing, that's what you need to do. I mean, physical therapy, trainers, athletic trainers, they're all in the same, doing the same job, physicians, and that's where you sort of need to get this together. Maybe, that requires more meetings, more committees, but I think if you come up with a good program that's going to address all those things, you don't want to make duplicate payments to a physical therapist and a weight room coordinator, so you need to coordinate that together somehow.
Well, one thing we may be able to investigate, as programs at Pioneer have started and grown, they've expanded out into satellite programs in the buildings, and I know the #1 program over there right now is the sports exercise science, and boy, if maybe there's an opportunity to do, if you have a satellite program like exercise science, and the teacher is paid for by Pioneer, and there's an opportunity for that person to work with our student athletes in a wellness setting. That might be, now we maybe would have to work out the after school or the flexible hours that person may be able to work, but I know that program's taken off leaps and bounds. I also know that there's probably restraints with regards to starting new satellite programs and things like that, but I don't think that is out of the question either. So.
And I think it's important enough that at some point, we take a look at all these supplementals we have and make some evaluation of, do we need all of those, or are there some we can do it, pick up something like this that I think is really important.
Since the proposal came in, have you gotten a head start of looking to see if there are any grants out there?
I spoke with Dawn briefly, probably about a week ago, maybe it was, and we were brainstorming and searching, did a quick look, but as far as really digging in, I thought that might be something that I reconvened the committee that kind of looked at this proposal and said, hey, we need to look at grants, let's, basically at the next meeting talk about things. I was maybe going to try and go back to Flex and say, but there's certain things I don't like about that proposal anyhow. One thing you see is they weren't going to provide any service in the summer, and that's a huge concern of mine, because that's when the majority of our kids are in, as far as athletes. I mean, we could expand this to classroom setting and so forth, but as far as number of athletes in there, that's going to be mostly in there. It's in the summer, and they wouldn't be providing services. I had a concern about that. But I didn't go back and talk to them. That was going to be, my two next steps would be look for grants and maybe go back and talk to them and say, hey, could you maybe even, is this your best offer? Is there anything you can work with here? Do we need this many trainers? Do we need this? Do we need that? Because their quote is for 3 trainers on site.
But they close out the end of it says this is indeed flexible and open to any and all suggestions. So
right.
I'm assuming that.
And I just want to get the feeling, before I went and did that, I want to get the feeling this is just a starting point. And when we talked as a committee, and everybody said, well, let's just kind of throw it out there for discussion. Don't ask anybody to vote on anything, just to brainstorm. These ideas I'm writing down are great ideas. You guys are giving me suggestions on wellness coordinator. I think that's when Dawn and I we talked about wellness heavily, but just changing the name of it is probably going to be huge as far as when you look at grants and stuff.
Yeah, and wellness right now is a hot button. I talked about you have to look a little bit broader than weight room coordinator or physical education grant, because right now wellness is the money that's out there.
Well, I think anything that you can connect with the community partnership also.
Right. So I appreciate you at least discussing it, and like I said, I didn't expect to go any further, and I wanted you to understand up front that I wasn't asking for money, I wasn't asking for anything like that, just to generate some discussion like this, to give me some ideas on how to proceed further with the committee and offer some suggestions on my part. Like I said, if you come up with any other suggestions, shoot me an email, call me and say, hey, I thought of this last night when I was laying in bed. I'm messing up sometimes, but just I'm breaking all this stuff down. Like I said, I'll bring it back to them, and hopefully in the near future we'll have some good movement on this.
Okay, thank you. Next item for discussion is the Ohio Core Graduation Requirements Dropout Prevention and Recovery Program Waiver, and that's Exhibit E.
I'd like to speak to that if I
Yeah.
could. The Ohio Department of Education provides local school districts an opportunity to establish a program to allow students to graduate from high school without meeting all of the Ohio core graduation requirements. And these would be students that we would identify at risk potentially during their freshman year and enroll them in a competency-based instruction program rather than the full-blown Ohio core curriculum. And if we apply for this waiver, which is due by September 30th, so it's on discussion for tonight. If we receive favorable comments tonight in front of you, next meeting in September would be the actual vote on applying for this waiver. It's a 4-year waiver, and Donna and Mrs. Stanfield, Mr. Henderson, and I have met, and Mrs. Stanfield's taking the lead in helping fill that application out, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this program.
Oh. So they don't have to complete the core.
For example, one of the requirements of the Ohio core is L2.
Yes.
Okay. And what this program would do, it would, if we successfully complete all of the requirements within the program that's approved by the Ohio Department of Education, that potentially would not have to pass the Algebra 2 requirement.
Okay.
And still receive a high school diploma.
So you set up the program, but they have to tell you if it's okay.
Correct.
Yes, they still must pass all of the OGTs.
That's right.
Okay, so they still have to do that. You also have to have parent consent. When we apply for the waiver, we must have the parent consent form submitted, and the parents would have to sign that. That has to be approved. Also, we have to submit a individual career plan of that student that would show counseling that would be available. If the child may be having some personal issues, you know, during that year, and they have to be like at least a year behind their cohorts. And our biggest issue is, like Mr. Kittle said, is our sophomores with this Algebra 2 requirement. Every child's going to have to pass Algebra 2 or its equivalent. So if we can show what we would do for these students and Algebra 2 equivalent, I'm just using that one, it could be another course, you know, but to get them those same requirements alternatively, you know, they still have to meet the academic standards. These students would be able to be awarded a diploma, because we know in every school system, for a student to graduate, number one, they have to meet Bucyrus City Schools requirements for graduation, and then they have to meet the state ones, which are the OGT ones. So they still have to meet the state, but can we show them that we can put together a program with counseling, with career advisement, and things like that?
So you would do this individually?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The program will be set up that if you are identified at risk for entering this program, and we have to actually list what criteria we would look at to enroll a kid into this program. And once you're enrolled in this program, there would be an individualized plan built around this kid in order to get them to graduation, and a career plan put in place so that it's not just, it's not a cookie cutter thing. I mean, you know, there's a couple of things that are already in place that allow students to still obtain a high school diploma that's already in place. For example, the alternative pathways to a high school diploma. You can pass 4 out of 5 OGTs, and if you still have to, that one that you didn't pass yet, if you're within 10 points, if you hold a certain GPA within that content area, if you don't miss so much school, you get letters of recommendation from the teachers, no discipline problems, you can still receive a high school diploma. Our students on IEPs don't always pass all of the OGTs. Do we keep working with them to try to get them to pass all of them? Yes, but that last part of their senior year, the IEP team can get together with the parents and the special ed teacher and administration and determine that he or she not be harmed and by not graduating if they hadn't passed all the OGTs. I look at this as one more program that we put in place, not that we would discourage anybody from taking all of the high core.
That would be just off the top of my head, you know, you take the path of least resistance. I wouldn't want to see that.
We have identified, we have to list all of the data that we would use, the criteria that we're using to determine these things. We have to submit, another piece of evidence that they want to see is we have to submit what their individual career plan, not a specific student, but we have to have the template already built. Where Deep Poker, when he was here, had that in the careers class, did a nice job of putting one together. And so that has been built in there to address all those components, and they can look at it. They have what was it, 59 days once we submit everything to say, well, you know what, this isn't rigorous enough, or we need to see more counseling here. What are you going to do with this part of their career? What are you going to give for them? And so then they have 59 days to review that. But before we can submit, it also has to be board approved to say, you know, everybody's behind it. But I think that the whole idea behind this was because of they're looking, and I'm going to go back when Kevin was sharing the idea about different ways to graduate. We knew that many years ago we were going to be building fourth grade schools when they had the fourth grade guarantee. If you didn't pass fourth grade reading, you were going to be retained regardless of your score. I think they're seeing some things when they're requiring every student to have an Algebra 2, pass Algebra 2. When we have kids having difficulty with Algebra 1, you know, not just here, just around the state. So, and now that Algebra 2 is Common Core, that's nationally the rigor is. And so they're just trying to build some safeguards. They still have to complete the requirements, but maybe it's in an alternative setting. Maybe it's just different than in that classroom with that teacher that someone's going to have to
Because
listen.
some kind of an identification and referral process. I mean, can parents refer their, how does kids get identified?
They have to be 1 full year behind academically with their cohorts. So how would we determine that? Number one, right away, we would look, you know, first of all, they had to have passed the OGT by this time. They would have to, we would look at their test scores. Right now we have Plan and Explore. We can show different scores throughout. We can look at their yearly scores. We can look at their classroom GPA. We have our short cycle assessments we can be using. Just different ones, and we have to document every one of those. What else? And it could be that maybe it wasn't just a test score or their grades. It is also a counseling piece in there because it might have been a personal issue in their life, such as they had a very dramatic hardship and they couldn't pass that year, you know, maybe a death in the family or something like that.
Well, so who's we? I mean, who's going to be doing this process?
Still in the application now?
No, it's up to the school district. And we have to put that in our application, our district. And this is, you know, like if we say it's going to be based on, if you don't have a 2.5, no. Well, then that's hard facts, you know. But we have to list that, Bucyrus City Schools, when we begin to write this. And that's why Mr. Henderson, Mr. Kimmel, and I, we've sat down, we've drafted it. And putting that in, we'll review what we've got in there, tweak it. If
there's much more literature to this program. I'd be more happy to send email to all you guys for you to take a look at. They get frequently asked questions. They have that 7-page application prior to us submitting any of the filling out any of the blanks can be sent to you. We don't have the completed application for you to see all of the requirements that's set, but this is more a discussion item to see whether or not the board would be interested in at least exploring that opportunity to approve it. But that would be something that would be looked at very much more closely at the September meeting for potential for approval.
So we'll have a little bit more information prior to September.
We'll get you the actual, I can get you the application now, but I can get you, you know, with the board packet prior to the meeting, that the information that is pertains to us. How's our program gonna work? How many kids are we gonna enroll in this? I don't know. If it helps one kid out, I wanna be able to have that option available. So, if we don't submit the application, that option will never, I don't say never, it will not be available for us. You're not,
How many students do we have that take the alternate pathway for graduation every year?
well, we've had several
Typically,
try, but,
typically.
you know, maybe successfully, we've had one in the 3 years I was principal.
So this is, it's not meant to make sure that they graduate, but it's just, like Kevin said, and Mr. Kimmel said, one more maybe. Then they have FAQs on here and just a guidance document, everything that.
Okay. Thank
I like the idea of having it as a tool in our toolkit, but I've got mixed feelings about how we got a lot of at-risk kids. I don't know.
Might be a perfect opportunity for the community school or that type of thing too, that we are trying to start up for those type of kids. And kids that have had maybe dropouts or something like that because of medical or family issues or something else like that, and getting them back in and knowing that they can still get the job even though they're working a full-time job or something like that, so.
We have to list if
You know,
they have that, how many times they would get counseling, how frequently, how long. I mean, they ask for frequency, duration.
That's good, that's good, okay. Any other questions regarding that? Last thing, I know, under discussion, I know Dr. Johnson had mentioned about a work session. And so, do we want to look at dates in September and or October for a possible work session, discuss finances and that type of thing? You know, in September, taking away Labor Day weekend, but we have the 10th, 17th, and 24th. And then October, we have the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th.
I know the 10th is out for me,
Okay. I'd prefer not the 10th, but. Or do we want to do it during the week? I just thought Saturday might work a little bit better that way. We're not trying to rush through things during the week.
but.
24th?
You know, I know we don't want to wait too long. I'm really looking forward to that October 12th and 13th session with Joe Ronsko. And if it's centered around financing, it's going to take a look at our levies and our income and revenues.
We'd be better off doing after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
I wish that we were going down and meeting with them prior to that, but
That'd be fine.
When, you said the 12th and
it's,
13th?
yeah, it is, I think Wednesday, Thursday, the 12th and 13th.
Why don't we do it on the 15th while it's still fresh in your mind?
Okay.
What time? 8 a.m.?
8 to 11.
9? I know. 8, okay. I mean, you know, let's plan on the 15th at 8 a.m. for that work session, if that's okay with everybody. And then if we have any issues, you know I don't have the official Lipscomb calendar that trumps all other calendars in the world. So if there's something else going on that day or
Can
something.
we make it like, we're done at noon?
At noon?
What, is that okay?
I guess 3:30 last time.
There's only 4 hours of finance that you could talk at.
I think we, yeah,
I
we'll be
see.
exhausted.
I guess maybe I'll want some guidance prior to that and setting up the agenda of whether you want to get into how the finances are affecting staffing or facilities or, I mean, it depends how layered you want that finance discussion to go that day, so.
How much can we pin down the state or Dawn, the department, is really depending on numbers you give us too. Are you comfortable with
I have a
forecast?
report that outlines every expense by vendor from last year. So I drove it down to that level. So, So that'll be easy to share.
Okay.
Okay.
Could someone make a contact and see about getting a staffing analysis done by area code?
I'll call the area coordinators tomorrow and see what I can find out, and see if they still do that.
Good. Thank you for moving that to it.
And I also, on a side note, trying to give you some information around the AEP rebate, send some stuff to you to look forward to. Seems to be that tomorrow, or Monday, we'll have a little bit more information. The holdup has been getting direct invoices that we don't have in-house here, but are housed with our subcontractors that work on both projects. And so there's a whole list, if you'd open up that spreadsheet of direct invoices that they need to see what the contractors spent on individualized equipment. They need to collect all of that information in order to submit to AEP. So hopefully we've got the ball going a little bit with them now, because they know that we're interested in getting some news on this. And hopefully soon we'll get some more information.
So are they gonna be working at getting those invoices?
I had offered that if I need to make some calls to the people that we sat in those construction meetings with, for example, Brandon from Courier, like 2 years of meetings with him. If Brandon's holding up the process, I'll call Brandon and say, hey, can you help us out here? But right now, the ball's still in Joe's court and engineering excellence to get that completed.
Just as a side note, I believe Mr. Kimmel has lit a fire on the AEP rebate.
Yay!
That's my.
And you know, I really kind of apologize because I really didn't know the ins and outs of it coming into my position. I mean, I heard about it, but I didn't know.
It's okay.
So, but Jake Crowell's doing a wonderful job too, and he's staying around on top of those things, and he's actually the one that initiated contact with Joe, and then I was able to slide in and provide a little bit more direction.
Okay, any communications? The only thing I'd like to communicate with the public is thank you to the people that supported the 2 different booths that helped Bucyrus City Schools during the Bucyrus Festival with band parents, and for the backpack program, the Rotary Purge thing, as well as numerous people that supported them by buying things. I know at both places where I work, there were a ton of Bucyrus families that were supporting them and that went out of their way to buy stuff that was supporting our schools. So that's really great.
I think Kathy Wells mentioned that there was 90 people connected to the schools that worked the Rotary Fish Fry over the 3-day Breakfast Festival weekend.
It was really neat to see that too. I mean, there's many people that did on the thing. Yes. Oh, State of the Schools, that's right, State of the Schools, Monday, 7 p.m. Everyone's invited after the open house. After the open house. And Dawn plans to stay within her 5-minute time limit.
They've given me dispensation.
And that's, okay, that's fine. Any other further announcements? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. Roll call, please.
Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Schiefer?
Yes.
Dr. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, and we are adjourned. 9:05.